So I want you to just transport yourself for a second here.
Okay.
It's January 2004. We're just a few days past New Year's, and you're in Garner, North Carolina.
Right. So you've got that crisp, kind of heavy post-holiday chill in the air.
Exactly. And we're standing on Hall Boulevard, which is just this totally ordinary, slow-paced suburban street. And there's this classic teenage scene unfolding. You've got 16-year-old Josh Davis and his buddy Michael, and they're just hanging out on the shoulder of the road, killing time.
Doing what teenagers do.
Yeah, they're practicing the lyrics to the latest rap hit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you remember the radio back in early 2004, it was probably Outkast's Hey Ya, just bouncing around in their heads.
Definitely. It was everywhere.
Right. So as they're standing there, Josh's 13-year-old sister, Alyssa, actually drives past with a friend. They're heading out to do some shopping. She rolls down the window, casually waves goodbye to her brother, and just keeps driving.
Just a completely normal day.
A completely mundane, totally forgettable interaction. I mean, she has absolutely no idea that is the last time she will ever see her brother alive.
Wow. And, the human brain really struggles with that kind of jarring transition.
It does.
Going from a completely ordinary afternoon in suburbia to just a catastrophic reality in a matter of minutes, it creates a very specific type of psychological shock. I mean, one moment you're waving at your sibling, and the next, the entire foundation of your world collapses.
And that collapse, it happens incredibly fast here. Because Alyssa is barely at the store before her phone buzzes, and it's a text message from her dad.
Okay.
And the message is so out of left field, so just completely incongruous with this sunny afternoon, that her brain actually refuses to process it at first. Her dad says Josh has been hit by a car, and they are rushing to the hospital.
Oh my gosh.
And Alyssa assumes it's a sick joke, like she actually finishes checking out at the cash register before heading back to Hall Boulevard.
Because you just don't want to believe it.
Exactly. The reality only really crashes down on her when she turns down her street. I mean, your stomach drops just picturing it. Her quiet neighborhood is suddenly this sea of flashing red and blue police lights.
Right.
The streets are barricaded with yellow tape. There's an ambulance idling there. But the final, just devastating blow comes the moment she steps inside her house and the phone rings. It's her Nana.
Hey.
And she tells her Josh is dead.
Which is just, the immediate grief there is heavily compounded by this massive, glaring void of information.
Yeah.
Because logically, Alyssa knows she just saw him walking down a 25-mile-per-hour residential street in broad daylight, right?
Right, with his best friend.
Exactly. So the window of time was minuscular. The mechanics of a fatal hit-and-run happening in that tiny gap, it simply doesn't make sense to a grieving family.
It doesn't make any sense at all. And that's why we're doing this. What we're doing in this deep dive is pulling apart the files of a 22-year-old mystery that for literally decades was written off as a tragic traffic accident in a sleepy small town.
But that's not the whole story, is it?
No, not at all, because this case was just blown wide open by a shocking search warrant that was executed in March of 2026.
Yeah, the new developments are wild.
They really are. So our mission in this deep dive is to walk you through this impossible timeline, examine the severe psychological toll this took on a grieving family, and ultimately break down the behavioral anomalies of a suspect that literally nobody saw coming.
It really serves as a phenomenal case study in how initial assumptions by law enforcement can just completely derail an investigation for decades.
Oh, 100%.
But on the flip side, it also demonstrates how modern digital forensics, when applied with fresh eyes, can finally trap a suspect who really thought they had beaten the system.
Yeah, so let's unpack this official accident timeline first, because the physics of a vehicle strike here just do not align with the witness statements at all.
Not even a little bit.
Right. So according to Michael, this is the friend who was with Josh. They're walking down Hall Boulevard when they realize they forgot the rap CD they wanted to listen to. So Michael says to Josh, hang tight real quick, I'll be right back.
Okay.
He leaves Josh on the side of the road and jogs back to his house. He is gone for single-digit minutes, but when he returns, Josh is lying on the ground, bleeding.
In just a few minutes.
Just a few minutes.
Yeah.
And there is no car in sight. There were no screeching tires. There was no sound of a collision. Just silence.
And the environment is crucial here, too. Hall Boulevard is a quiet residential zone. It has a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit.
Yeah.
Sound travels easily in a place like that. A vehicle accelerating, braking hard, or making an impact of that magnitude, it would generate significant acoustic signatures that someone just a few houses away would undeniably hear.
Exactly. I mean, it's like a poorly executed magic trick. You cannot dissipate the kinetic energy and the noise of a fatal collision in a 25-mile-per-hour zone in mere seconds.
Right. Physics just doesn't work that way.
Well, a car going fast enough to cause fatal trauma doesn't just vanish without a sound. And the family, they recognize this immediately.
Which is totally understandable.
So their first instinct, naturally, was to look at Michael. I mean, they brought him into their home, sat him down, and really pressure tested his story.
They had to know for sure.
But Michael was completely forthcoming with Josh's dad. He cooperated fully with the police, and his timeline never wavered. The family genuinely believed he was telling the truth, that he really just went back for that CD.
And what's fascinating here is that once the primary witness is cleared by both the police and the victim's family, you're left with this phantom vehicle.
Yeah, this ghost car.
Right. So the family put up a massive billboard offering a $10,000 reward for information on the driver because they were operating under the assumption that someone made a terrible mistake, panicked, and fled.
But then the funeral happens, and this is where the narrative completely fractures. I want you to picture being 13-year-old Alyssa. You're walking up to an open casket to say goodbye to your big brother.
That's just incredibly heavy.
It is. And she's bracing her mind, to see the horrific, mangled damage that's caused by a speeding 2-ton vehicle. But she looks down into the casket, and Josh looks immaculate.
Wow.
He looks exactly like himself. The only thing out of place is a small, single patch of makeup on his temple covering one isolated mark.
And see, the visual evidence in that casket is the thread that unravels the entire hit-and-run theory.
How so?
Well, we really need to look at the mechanism of energy transfer in an automotive-pedestrian collision. A vehicle traveling at 25 miles per hour carries an immense amount of kinetic energy.
Right.
When 2 tons of steel strike a human body, that energy disperses violently across multiple points. You expect to see lower extremity fractures where the bumper hits the legs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You expect blunt force trauma to the torso from the hood, secondary impacts with the windshield as the body is thrown, and severe road rash from skidding across the asphalt.
But Josh didn't have any of that. And the police, honestly, they tried to wave that away. When the autopsy report confirmed the cause of death was a single traumatic blunt force hit to the head near the temple, investigators pitched this totally freak scenario.
Oh, the side mirror theory.
Yes. They told the family Josh might have been leaning down to tie his shoe, and a passing car's side mirror clipped him perfectly in the head, killing him instantly without bruising the rest of his body.
I mean, the statistical probability of a side mirror causing a fatal, isolated strike to the temple while leaving the rest of the body completely untouched is vanishingly small.
It's basically impossible.
Right. The physical evidence dictates a completely different reality. A single, fatal, traumatic strike to the temple with no other bodily injuries suggests a targeted strike with a weapon.
A weapon?
Yes. It points to someone swinging a heavy object directly at his head with lethal intent.
And that shift, the realization that this was a planned killing, it completely changes the landscape of the investigation. You're no longer looking for a reckless, panicking driver.
No, you're looking for a killer with a specific motive.
Exactly.
And finding a motive requires dissecting the victim's life. Investigators have to look for enemies, hidden conflicts, or secret lives. And this raises an important question, because in a town like Garner, that kind of inquiry acts as a catalyst for community paranoia.
Oh, absolutely. Garner is a town with just one high school. It's the kind of place where everyone knows everyone. And if everyone knows everyone, secrets don't really exist.
Right.
But when the community couldn't make sense of Josh's murder, this really malicious gossip filled the vacuum. I mean, imagine Alyssa just weeks after burying her brother, gathering the courage to return to 8th grade.
Gosh, that had to be so hard.
She walks onto campus carrying this immense, suffocating grief, and a girl walks right up to her and says, "Your brother got what he deserved."
That is just awful. But psychologically, people use gossip like that as a defensive coping mechanism.
Really? How does that work?
Well, if the community can convince themselves that Josh was involved in something dark, it means their own children are safe from a random killer.
Ah, I see.
Yeah, the rumor circulating was that Josh had recently gone to the movies and gotten into a severe secret altercation.
And so Alyssa was suddenly confronted with this terrifying idea that her brother had a hidden life. I mean, teenagers live deeply compartmentalized lives, right? They keep massive secrets from their parents.
Always.
So if Josh was targeted for a reason the family didn't know, they had absolutely no idea who was coming next. And that uncertainty bred this absolute physical terror inside the Davis home.
Because living with an unidentified threat in a small town is quite literally psychological warfare. You are breathing the same air, shopping at the same grocery stores, and driving the same streets as the person who murdered your family member.
Let me paint a picture for you of how that terror physically manifested. Because the youngest sister, Lauren, she was only 2 years old when Josh was murdered.
Just a toddler.
Yeah. And as she grew up, her core childhood memories consisted of watching her mother pace the hallways of their home, clutching a heavy metal pipe wrench.
Oh my goodness.
Her mother would just grip this tool, terrified, listening to the quiet hum of the house. Because the house phone would ring, and anonymous voices would whisper through the receiver, "You next," or "We know who did it."
The trauma just layers upon itself. I mean, the family is living in a perpetual state of siege, armed with hand tools in their own living room, while the official police investigation stagnates.
It totally stalled.
Right. Detectives cycle in and out. Every tip, every cruel high school rumor is handed over, and just nothing materializes.
Nothing. For over 2 decades, the only update the family received was an occasional, just sterile Facebook post from the Garner Police Department on the anniversary of Josh's death, asking the public for tips.
Wow.
But then we fast forward through 22 years of silence, and the case suddenly moves in March of 2026.
This is where it gets crazy.
It really does. A new case detective, Michael Hammerstein, takes over, and he brings fresh eyes and a modern understanding of digital forensics to this file that's just been gathering dust.
Thank goodness for that.
Yeah. Hammerstein calls the family completely out of the blue. And he doesn't just have a minor update. He tells them they're serving a search warrant, and he wants to brace them for the name on that warrant.
Because it's a huge shock.
The suspect is Megan Potter. And the twist, Megan Potter is a sworn police officer in the nearby town of Fort Oaks.
See, introducing a suspect who wears a badge fundamentally alters the dynamic of a homicide investigation.
I can imagine.
You're dealing with an individual who understands the internal machinery of the justice system. They know how evidence is collected, how interviews are conducted, and exactly how to manipulate the investigative blind spots.
And the family is sitting in their living room, utterly stunned. Megan Potter was 4 years older than Josh. They were not in the same social circles. Her name had never once come up in any of the nasty small-town rumors or those threatening phone calls.
So they're wondering, how does she connect to this?
Exactly. Desperate for a connection, the family goes digging through their attic. They pull out these old boxes and find the dusty, velvet-bound guest book from Josh's 2004 funeral. They flip through the pages of signatures, and the blood just drains from their faces when they see it in black and white ink. Megan Potter attended the funeral.
Oh, wow. And, we see this behavioral marker in organized offenders quite a bit.
Really? Why do they do that?
Inserting oneself into the aftermath of a crime serves multiple psychological functions. While sometimes it's driven by a twisted sense of remorse, an offender with a law enforcement mindset usually attends a funeral for intelligence gathering.
So she was running counter-surveillance.
Exactly.
She treated a teenager's funeral like a reconnaissance mission to see if anyone was looking her way. She needed to gauge the police presence, listen to the family's whispers, and assert this silent, invisible dominance by standing over the casket of the person she killed.
It is the ultimate display of control. The question investigators had to answer in 2026, though, was how someone with that level of calculated control actually managed to slip up.
Well, the breakthrough came from an old tip that was honestly just bafflingly ignored. According to the search warrant, Megan Potter's ex-husband called the Garner police back in 2010.
Oh, okay.
And he pointed the finger directly at her for Josh's homicide. But for reasons we still don't fully understand, that 2010 tip completely stalled. The original detectives never took action.
Which is incredibly frustrating.
It is, but when Detective Hammerstein took over the cold case, he recognized the value of re-interviewing that witness 15 years later. And the ex-husband's story was perfectly consistent.
And that is huge. Consistency over a 15-year gap is an incredibly powerful tool for an investigator.
Why is that so important?
Because human memory naturally degrades over time, right? But a fabricated story usually shatters completely when tested a decade and a half later. The fact that his narrative held up gave Detective Hammerstein the leverage needed to confront the suspect directly.
And Megan's story, on the other hand, fractured. Because the warrant notes that detectives originally spoke to her back in 2004. We don't know what her initial alibi was, but when detectives called her in September of 2025, her new statement completely contradicted her 2004 statement.
Oh, that's a massive red flag.
Yeah. And her behavior during this 2025 phone call is basically a masterclass in panic masking as arrogance.
It really is. We see a collision here between an offender's fear of discovery and a police officer's ingrained sense of superiority.
Right off the bat, completely unprompted, Megan tells the homicide detectives, "I know my ex-husband implicated me."
Wow.
Yeah, she is volunteering crucial information, trying to show them she's already a step ahead. The detectives play it cool and ask her to come in for a standard in-person interview. She flat out refuses.
Just says no.
Just says no. She becomes totally uncooperative and issues a demand. She tells the detectives investigating her for murder that she will only be interviewed at her own police department in Fort Oaks.
See, she's attempting to control the venue and the power dynamic. She's treating homicide detectives like rookies she can just order around.
Right.
By demanding the interview happen on her turf, surrounded by her own colleagues, she's trying to intimidate the investigators.
Right.
But suspects, even those with badges, do not get to dictate terms to homicide detectives.
And the detectives inform her of that reality, but her response is just dripping with attitude. She says, "I'll think about it and call you back." And then she ghosts them.
Unbelievable.
She stops responding to all calls and text messages. She operates under the assumption that if she ignores the problem, they'll eventually go away, just like the detectives did in 2010.
But ignoring a homicide detective in 2025 is a fatal miscalculation.
It really is.
Because the digital footprint has evolved immensely since 2010. Investigators now have tools to track behavior silently.
And they use those tools perfectly. The detectives set a brilliant digital trap. When she goes dark, they run an audit on her CJ Leads account.
Okay, let's explain what that is.
Yeah, so CJ Leads is a strict law enforcement-only database in North Carolina. It holds highly sensitive information addresses, criminal records, emergency contact info, all of it.
Right, stuff the public can't just Google.
Exactly. And you are only legally allowed to use it for active cases you are officially assigned to. The system is actually designed as a digital tripwire. Every single keystroke leaves an indelible fingerprint.
That's right.
And the audit revealed that right after the homicide detectives contacted her, Officer Megan Potter logged into this secure database and illegally ran a search on her ex-husband.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, legally, that unauthorized search gives investigators what we call a predicate offense.
The predicate offense.
Yeah, I'll break that down.
Okay.
A predicate offense is a smaller, easily provable crime that acts as a legal stepping stone.
Okay.
Detectives might not have had enough physical evidence to convince a judge to sign a murder warrant for a 22-year-old cold case. However, abusing a secure police database is a clear, documented cybercrime committed today.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah, that illegal digital search provided the exact, undeniable, probable cause a judge needed to sign a search warrant for her property.
She thought she was running counter surveillance on her accuser, trying to see what the police knew about him. Instead, she triggered the very alarm she was trying to avoid.
It's poetic justice, really.
It is, and that digital misstep culminated on March 31st, 2026. Detectives executed a search warrant on Megan Potter's home. They seized an iPhone and a Dell laptop as potential evidence.
Big day for the case.
Huge day. The Fort Oaks Police Department immediately placed Megan on administrative leave pending the outcome of the criminal investigation. Now, while she hasn't been formally charged with murder yet, Detective Hammerstein has confirmed this is a hot, active investigation moving rapidly behind the scenes.
And investigators enter a crucial waiting period, now as digital forensics experts image those seized devices.
What exactly are they looking for?
They'll scour the hard drives for hidden evidence. Perhaps old emails, deleted journal entries, or archived communications that corroborate the ex-husband's tip or tie her directly to Josh's life in 2004.
And if you are listening to this and you know anything, if you lived in Garner in 2004, if you heard the rumors about the movie theater fight, or if you know Megan Potter, the Garner police desperately want to hear from you, their tip line is 919-772-810. You just ask for Detective Hammerstein.
And people should feel safe coming forward now. The veil of invincibility surrounding the suspect has been pierced. When a corrupt authority figure is publicly exposed, it often acts as a beacon, encouraging hesitant witnesses who were previously too terrified to finally speak up.
We really have to anchor this story back to the victims, though, because while the police are dealing with search warrants and seizing hard drives, Alyssa and Lauren are still just two sisters missing their brother.
Yeah, the human cost is so high.
Alyssa was actually telling reporters about her vibrant memories of Josh doing crazy tricks on the trampoline in the backyard, just laughing on sunny afternoons.
The good times.
Yeah. But Lauren, who was just a toddler when the murder happened, She only has one single memory of her brother.
Just one.
Just one. She remembers Josh sneaking her out of a window so they could sit quietly on the roof and just watch the cars go by together.
Wow.
That is all she has of him. A lifetime of memories reduced to a single fleeting image.
The contrast between the innocence of those memories and the brutal reality of the crime just really highlights the profound theft that occurred on Hull Boulevard.
It really does. And as you picture that little girl sitting on the roof watching cars go by, I want to leave you with a chilling thought to mull over.
Okay.
For 22 years, this family lived in absolute terror of anonymous threats. They clutched pipe wrenches in their living room, wondering what monster was hiding in their small town. All the while, the prime suspect was a sworn police officer in the next town over. When the person sworn to protect and serve might be the very predator hiding in plain sight, you have to wonder over the last 2 decades, how many times did Officer Megan Potter drive her patrol car past the Davis family home wearing a badge, knowing exactly what she did on Hall Boulevard?